All right, welcome back everyone to this live demo session on SAP UI5 and Fiori training on Business Application Studio with OData Services and VS Code. In this live demo session, we are going to discuss the definition of SAP UI5, and we will see building a very simple UI5 application in next 30 minutes. This training includes a 40-hour Power Pack content which will make you a hero in SAP UI5. It's designed for an absolute beginner who has no clue about UI5 to make you an expert in the technology, with a promise of no copy paste of code, followed by live classes and real-time scenario, including latest content. So let's understand what is our developer persona and who is this course for. This course is designed for Alina. Alina is a UX designer and she would like to start her career into the development of UI5 application. By far, Alina is focusing on building prototypes for the company. If you are Stephen, who is a technical advocate working in industry with UI technologies like Angular, Ajax, or other UI technologies like Android, and would like to venture into SAP world to build SAP UI5 applications, this training is also going to help you. If you are like Michael, who is an absolute fresher out of college or a basic knowledge on programming and would like to understand and become a full stack SAP developer, this course is also going to help you. Finally, Eva, who is an application developer working as an ABAP consultant and wants to build applications for S4HANA or ECC system using UI5, this training is also going to help you. Let's have a look at the course outlook. This course is divided into 4 phases. In first phase, we will learn fundamentals of SAP UI5, which includes HTML5, CSS, JavaScript, and jQuery. We will learn how to set up Business Application Studio as well as VS Code development tool in our system to equip ourselves to build UI5 application from scratch. Then we will talk about UI5 framework, where you will learn how to build UI5 applications from scratch in the system using the concepts of UI5 SDK and MVC architecture. In the third phase, we will learn Fiori user experience, building mobile application using SAP mobile library in UI5, using latest concepts like component.js, manifest, router, route match handling, OData integration, and more. In the last phase of this training, we will learn how to build your OData services in ECC or S4HANA system to expose your enterprise data to the Fiori apps, and finally deploying the Fiori app to production system, including Launchpad integration. This course, as I mentioned, is of total 40-hour duration, 40. And in this next 40 hour, we are designing this course for an absolute beginner or an ABAP developer who have never worked on UI5 or have no clue about Fiori and would like to aspire to transform into a Fiori UX developer to build end-to-end Fiori applications in your company. Now, if you look at today's demo, what we're going to see today, we will launch our development tool. We will build a very simple project. We will follow the MVC architecture and we will test our app in our machine. And then finally, we will run the application into the browser. So this will be our typical flow of demo in today's session. I'm not going to explain today how did I got my development tool set up. We will see how did I got my development tool set up in our next class. So that's what we are going to see in the next class. So when you want to build UI5 application in general, what are all the couple of things you wanted to remember? First comes is development tool. So SAP have improved development tool over years. Let me quickly tell you about the flow of development tool, how it emerged. So when SAP UI5 was first launched, Eclipse was the first development tool which we used to use in the past, 2013 or 12, that was the time. SAP then came out of Eclipse and they introduced a new tool called WebIDE, which was dedicatedly designed for developers of UI5 to build UI5 applications. And then SAP introduced a tool called Business Application Studio in 2020, where you can start building applications in the cloud without installing anything in your machine. So WebID is now a dead tool. Nobody's using WebID in the industry, except until unless you have already purchased a license in the past. Along with that, if you want to do local development, we use another tool by Microsoft, which is again free. It's called VS Code. So predominantly in our training, we are going to focus on these three tools when it comes to setup and development of UI5 apps. When you want to build application, you also have to follow certain guidelines and architecture. When we are going to build our application in our training, we will focus on building on model view controller architecture, so-called MVC, model, view, and controller. So you have a view, you have a controller, and you have the model. So these are all the three sections of a building block of a UI5 app. View is nothing but your input output. Your user will only interact with the view. And then from here, when user does an activity on the view, a signal is sent to the controller. So this activity will trigger a event, and then you will have an event handler method, a logic, which is going to handle this click or this action on the UI. If there is a need to read the data, it will go to the model, and the data gets updated, it will get notified to the controller. Finally, the controller sends the updated data back to the view, and the data will be displayed to the user. Additionally, we also have a direct tunnel or direct relationship between the data and the screen using data binding or binding concept in general. In this training, we are going to focus all these building blocks, including the different types, like we have JavaScript view, XML view, JSON view, and then also the different types of models. So view is our input output, controller is our processing, and model is our data. This is the typical architecture we follow, so-called MVC architecture. So without wasting further time, let me switch over to our dev tool. So today we are going to use this VS Code development tool for this demo. In our next session, I'm going to teach you how to set up VS Code in your local computer absolutely free. So let's move on and now see how to create our first project. So I switch over to VS Code, and here I will create first of all a folder in my computer. So I will create a folder in my computer. Let me create a folder mkdir, make a directory, demo UI5. I do that, a folder in my computer got created. And if I go to my computer folder, I can see the demo UI5 folder here. Now I will add this folder to my VS Code environment. So I drag and drop it. And now you can see the folder is added. So this is our project. But before we begin any project in UI5, we also have to follow certain structure of a project. Every project has to have a structure. So let's create a basic structure. So first we will create a folder called web app folder. Web app means it's a web application which can run on mobile, tablet, and desktop. And additionally, we will mark this project a very special because we need to provide certain properties to build this project. To do that, we will add a file for application descriptor file, and this we call it as manifest.json file. This is a mandatory file for any project you build using UI5. It will have three sections. The first section is sap.app section. This is our first section. The second section is called sap.ui section. And the third section it has called SAP UI5 section. These are all the three sections we will have inside this file. Very important. Now in the first section, we will provide our properties of this application, so-called ID, type, and application version. So let us provide those properties for ID of my application. Then I will provide the type of the application. It's an application, not a plugin, not a library. And then we will provide the application version. So these are the basic properties before you start any project in VS Code. So that's our version, and let's give an ID. So I will give the ID as com.anubhavtrainings.demo UI5. That's my application ID. So this is the first step to create a basic skeleton of our UI5 or Fiori project. Once this is done, we are now going to initialize this project with required dependencies. As you all know, when you want to build any application or project, you need to have certain dependencies. Now, in order to have those dependencies added to our project, we need to initialize our project. To do that, we switch over back and we go to the project directory, demo UI5, and now we will run a command called npm init. This command is going to create a file automatically in our project called package.json file where we can add our project dependencies. So let me enter, and I just enter for all these questions, and you will see a file got created in my project. But this is a UI5 project. UI5 project means a special project. It's a UI5 type project. It's a SAP UI5 project. To do that, we need to now add a very important command, another command to add a special file called UI5 YAML, which describes our system that it's a UI5 project. It's not an Angular project. It's not an Android project. It's not a Microsoft project. It's a UI5, SAP UI5 project. So for that, I will run next command called UI5 init. And now we will see another file, UI5 YAML is created, which describes the project properties and tell the system it's a UI5 project. Wow. As the next step, we will always start with the index.html file. So let's create an index.html file. And this file, we are going to write our very simple and basic logic. Yes. Now, let me say welcome or hello, Anubhav. Yeah, just like a hello world. And I would like to run this project in a web browser now. To do that, you have to come down and type a command called UI5 space serve. Press enter, and that starts now a web server in your local computer, which you can use to run it in the browser. So let's open this in a browser. And now I can show you, yes, there you go. Your first application with Hello Anubhav is ready. Wow. Our first web page, our first web application with Hello World. So all these three things, what you see manifest, packages and UI5 YAML, they are like boilerplate code. They are required to be added to initialize a project. So we initialize our project. Maybe today you may not understand all of them properly as it's just a demo class. I need to teach you first the JSON concept to make you comfortable with these things. But as it's just a demo, I'm covering it in a way that you can see something live in the system. Having said that, let's talk the basic introduction of what is SAP UI5. So SAP UI5, why do we use it? SAP UI5 is a framework to develop responsive web application. What do we mean by a framework? A framework is nothing but it's a collection of libraries. What is a library? A library is a collection of classes. What is a class? A class is nothing but it's a collection of attributes, events, methods, and functions, right? This is what actually a class is consist of. So now we are going to create our UI5 project. So whenever you want to create any project in your career, in your programming languages, you always follow certain pattern. Like in C programming also, when you start with first program, you say studio.h, conio.h. You initialize that project. So this framework is available directly on the internet. Yes. So it's there on the internet. UI5 framework is given by SAP on the internet directly, and we can initialize our project from the internet. So first step is we are going to bootstrap SAP UI5, which means we are going to load this framework from the internet in our local computer. Then we are going to add logic to create UI controls. There are different UI controls like button, input field, text box, checkbox, switch control. A lot of these UI controls are there. And the third step, what we are going to do here is we are going to go ahead and create or show the user our final application in the browser after putting it into the body of HTML. So any HTML page consists of three things. First is header and second is a body. So we will put finally our button inside the body of our HTML to show the web page. So let's do these three easy steps now. So first step is to bring this UI5 framework from the internet. So let me go back and I will bye-bye to Hello Anubhav and we will create a HTML document. So we start with an HTML. It has a header, which is the brain of HTML, and it has body, which is the content what you want to show to the user. Now in the header or the brain, we are going to initialize our UI5. Just like in C programming, you get studio.h, conio.h to initialize C preprocessor directive. Here you get SAP UI5. So let me get a script tag to initialize UI5 and I say the source of this is from the internet. So I say https sap ui5 dot on demand.com /resources /sap ui core.js. Now you may wonder, how do you remember this URL, Anubhav? Where did you get this URL from? If I want to get it, how do I get it? So guys, we will learn this in unit number 7, where I will teach you UI5 SDK, the software development kit. There you will understand how do we get this bootstrapping URL from. So you'll better understand in unit number 7 this part. Next, I will provide certain properties. As you mentioned that UI5 is a framework, it's a collection of library. So we will mention which library I truly wants to load in my computer or in my project. So that's what is our next step, load the library. For that, we use a special statement called data SAP UI libs. I want to load SAP mobile library to basically build our application in mobile. Next step, we are going to load the theme. So theme is basically nothing but color scheme of our application. What is the look and feel of our application? So we'll use data dash SAP UI theme, and I will load a latest SAP Fiori 3 dark theme over here to basically show the result to the user on the screen. That is what our next step. And now last step is we need to tell the UI5 framework where all my application resources are. So for that we say data SAP UI resource roots, which is going to tell the system where exactly all my files related to my project are going to be placed. Okay, where are all my project files? So I will say all my project files are inside a current working directory dot slash. So my current working directory of index.html is web app. So I'm basically aliasing, I'm giving a pointer to the system that my current working directory, which is web app, is the root of all my resources. All my project files are inside this directory. I'm telling this to the UI5. So let's put here some name. So you can say com.anubotrainings.demo UI5. That's my namespace of the project. We will talk about this particular line in our unit number 11 more in detail. 1 hour lecture only on this line. I have 1 hour lecture only on this line. We will discuss in unit 11 more in details. Very important unit 11, unit number 11 in our actual class. So this is just a demo, hence you may or may not understand fully, but this is the flow. I wanted to cover one simple flow for all of you. Now, once this is done, let's create a button. So we will use a script tag and we will create a button object here. So var variable, create a button for me, obtn. New, I will create now a object of a class. So I say new keyword to create object of a class. I will now use this library which I imported, SAP mobile library, and this library has a class called button class. So how do I know that there is a button class? Why not it's called a input? Why not it's called a click, because SAP UI5 have predefined this in a library, and we will learn this in unit 10 about UI5 SDK, where you will be able to explore yourself what are all the other controls which are part of this library and their respective properties. So now I will come here and put here the text, and we will say click me, and then we will put press. And when you press, what to happen, what to do. So we are saying we're going to trigger a function, and when user press on the button, then I'm going to say hello Anubhav. So let me put a alert. Alert is going to bring you a pop-up in the web browser, and I say hello Anubhav. So that's the logic for our button. Yes. So now my button is ready. But if I run my application in the browser, I still will not see my button. Yes, don't see the button. Why? The reason being, this button is not yet added to the body of HTML. Remember, user can only see what is added in the body of HTML. So that's the reason we have to add it in the body. So let's create a canvas on the body. So I create a div tag called division tag. And now I'm going to place this inside the body. So don't worry about these tags and all. This we will spend a significant time in our basic unit in next class, unit number 2 and 3. We will learn about basics of HTML. I know that majority of you come from ABAP background, have no idea of what is HTML. Don't worry, we are going to cover this more in detail in unit 2 and 3 from scratch. As it's a demo, I wanted to cover a complete one end-to-end flow to make you understand the one simple flow. So let's place now this button inside the place at inside my content area. So you can clearly see this is the name of my area. This is the name of my area here where I wanted to place our button actually in the body. As a response to that, you will see now the button on the screen should appear. I will save and come back and we refresh, and voila, you can see the button is coming. When I click, it says hello Anubhav. Nice. And you see why the button color is black. The reason for that is apparent, because we have used a Fiori dark theme, and that's the reason our button color is black. If you want to paint the whole screen, yeah, the background color of whole screen, you have to use a class name, a classification property called SAP UI body. And now I can save, come back, and wow, look at that, how beautiful our app looks now. It's a very simple app. In last 30 minutes, we are able to build from scratch a simple application in our local computer, a mobile application in local computer, and test it. Of course, there is nothing radical, nothing exceptional in this app. It is a very, very simple UI5 app in the system. So let me summarize what we did today. We started with building our first UI5 project with the name called Demo UI5. We have added a file, a folder called Web App folder, and added a manifest JSON file to describe our project properties. Then in the next step, we have triggered a command called npm init command to basically initialize our first project and its dependencies. This all got generated automatically. As a next step, we need to tell the system that it's a UI5 type project. It's not an Android project. So we do a special command called UI5 init, which adds the next file for us into our project. In the fourth step, we have added an index.html file in which we have first initialized the UI5. This piece of code is called Bootstrap. So in interview, if somebody asks you what is UI5 bootstrapping, you say it's a piece of code which we add in index.html file to load the UI5 framework from the internet. Yes. So this is called bootstrapping. We are initializing SAP UI5 framework with its respective libraries and paths. As a next step, we create a button control eventually in the system. And this button, we are finally placing it into the body of HTML. A HTML page consists of header, which is the brain of HTML, and a body, which contains the content, actual content, which you want to show to the user. Now, then finally, we place the button into the body. And as a result, we are able to see the body or the button into the screen. At the same time, I want to also change the background color of my page. So I put this classification property extra to get my background color on the page. And finally, what I see when I run a UI5 serve command in my web browser, I got my first mobile application ready to be tested on the screen. So this is what, very simple, basic stuff what we saw today. Of course, an end-to-end demo, yet may be very difficult for some of you to understand in first go, because we need to really work on a lot of skills before we get into these stuff step by step, starting HTML in the next session. So of course, our next session will be about how to set up this development tool in our local machine or use Business Application Studio given by SAP to develop our Fiori applications. So let's understand some of the frequently asked questions. So what will be the duration of this training, and are there any prerequisites? So guys, the duration of this training is 40 hours, 40. Yes, that's a total duration of this training. And we are going to cover in on daily basis. It's a weekday batch on day-to-day basis. And this is how we are going to cover this training completely. Yes. So, and there is no prerequisite for this training actually. You can be absolute college fresher out of college, and you can also learn SAP UI5 without any problem. Many college freshers have learned SAP UI5 through us, and they are now working at a very good positions in multinational companies. These days, college freshers, ABAP developers are predominantly looking forward to build their skills on UI5. The timing does not suit me. Can I go with video mode training? Absolutely, you can. So if you are from European time zone, especially it's midnight for you, you can go ahead with the video mode training. And through the video mode training, you get exactly same content, same flow, same style of teaching, all the study material, all the projects, PPTs, everything. And you can fast track your learning also through video mode. We will provide you all the videos of this training in one go, and you can start learning through the videos also. That's also possible without any problem. So if timing doesn't suit you, or you want to fast track your learning as you have a project need, urgent project need, you can go with video mode training, not the live training. If you go with live training, after the live class, you also get the video access of the live class, but it will come one by one. Next, what tools are we going to learn in this training? Some of you are very particular about tools. So guys, we are going to learn three important tools, so-called VS Code, which I showed you today, Business Application Studio, and Web IDE. All these three tools we are going to learn in this training. My recommendation to all of you will be to use VS Code and BAS, not Web IDE, because Web IDE is not a next generation tool. In our classes, we will see how to install these tools or configure these tools to use them in our local machine or remotely on cloud. Next, what about server access for OData? So we need only SAP server access only in last 10 classes. When we practice OData service and integration and deployment, we would not need server for initial 50% or 60% of the course. We will use the data with the JSON format directly in the project. So don't worry if you are an independent individual consultant in US and you are not working with any company at the moment, you will also get provisioning for the server done. We will guide you. We have a dedicated 1 hour class, the session number 29, where I will guide you about server access and OData services in general, so that you can also equipped and ready to practice everything in the live system. So we will also give you the system access details, server details, so that you can also connect to a server and practice OData as well if you don't have a server from your company. The next comes is, will you cover some real-time scenarios in this training? Yes. So we will learn end-to-end development process of Fiori applications from scratch. And finally, we will connect with real SAP data from S4HANA and deliver, deploy, design a production-ready application to the production system. All of that we will be covering in this training. I am new to SAP UI5. Can I learn UI5? Yes, absolutely. You can learn UI5. Anyone can learn UI5. It doesn't matter whether you have experience or have zero experience. Yes, even college fresher can join this training and can learn everything, because we cover all the basics of web development, which is HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and jQuery. Many people think that they need to learn Java for learning UI5. It's a myth. It's a myth. I was also an ABAP developer, and I was thinking for a long time that I don't want to switch my career to Java. Guys, please understand Java and JavaScript are completely different programming language. They have nothing in common except the name Java. So we will not require any Java knowledge, or there is no Java required to be learned to learn UI5. Okay, you can learn UI5 without any Java knowledge. We need JavaScript, which I'm going to teach you in this training. It's the most easiest programming language on this planet, JavaScript. We will cover this in our course itself. If I miss a class, however, how can I refer it? So each class will be recorded like the one which we are doing today. And if you miss a training, if you miss a class, you can watch the recording of that class later point of time from our training blog. Finally, what's the process to enroll this training, Anubhav? The process is very simple. You just have to send us an email on contact@anubhavtrainings.com, and you will be signed up for the training, as you already know the standard process. So having said that, thank you so much everyone for this fantastic demo session today. I hope you enjoyed. Of course, I could not give you everything in one class, in one session, but I just wanted to cover one simple flow to show you building a UI5 app from scratch without any copy paste of code. In our next class, we are going to learn how to set up our development tool in real SAP system or in your local computer and make yourself comfortable with the first UI5 project. UI5 isn't difficult. SAP GUI is dying. Nobody will ask you to build SAP GUI or PBO PAI based application. Nobody will ask you to build webdynpros and BSP nowadays. Everyone is moving to Fiori. Almost 70 to 80% new projects which are coming in market, US market, Canadian market, Australian market, they're all coming from the direction of UI5. And this is one skill as a SAP consultant you must have to have in your resume to transpile your career to the next level. So that's why SAP UI5 is super important. I've trained thousands of consultants and they are positioned at a very good situation now. Many of them have 2 to 3 offers in the market. The job market is also very hot for SAP UI5. So this is going to be a great decision for all of you from with the perspective of your career as well. Having said that, I'm done with this demo. Now it's time for all of you. We have next 30 minutes only open for open discussion. Yes, all of you can start asking your questions one by one.
Yeah, Anubhav Uday here. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Uday.
Yeah, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm also doing good. So my question is related to Fiori elements. We have something called Fiori elements, right? Wherein we can build Fiori applications just using annotations. Of course, I
Mhm.
understand it does not give the flexibility as SAP UI5 gives,
Right,
but more or less we can achieve the same functionality using Fiori elements, correct?
right. Mhm.
So how do you, what is your opinion regarding building the applications completely using Fiori elements?
Okay, so guys, these two techniques are running in parallel in general when it comes to Fiori elements and Fiori freestyle applications. So this course, which we are going to start or launch today, is a freestyle Fiori app development course. And then we have
Mhm.
Fiori elements style. So if
Will
you
that
talk
be
about
covered as a part of this?
No, no, we are not going to cover this Fiori element here. We will cover introduction, but not complete Fiori elements because I have a different training for 70 hours, 70 hour. It is that
Mhm.
training. Okay, let me compare. So first of all, which training do I cover this? So the current training which you are starting today is about freestyle Fiori of development. Yeah.
Mhm.
In this, you will learn what is manifest, what is component JS, what is router, what is route match handler, what is OData, how do you integrate OData. If you do not know this, you will never be able to build Fiori elements also because the fundamentals are weak. And if foundation itself is weaker, then you will never be able to build Fiori elements or any other kind of apps, no matter what comes. So the current course target this. If you are a beginner in Fiori, you should take the current course which we are starting today. In my opinion, choice is yours. Then this is also covered. I have a training for this as well. It's called Fiori Advanced Training, which is a 60-hour
Mhm.
training available on anubhavtrainings.com. This is 40-hour training. So if you want to become a super expert on Fiori, you have to take both of these modules one by one. But first you start with the current one. Now coming to the flexibility. When it comes to flexibility, Fiori freestyle apps have high flexibility as you can use any kind of layout of your choice, including the controls of your choice. Wherever you want to place them, you can. But Fiori element gives you less flexibility because the application gets auto-generated based on annotations. Coming to the skills required to build this app, here you need skills of web development, which includes HTML, CSS, JavaScript predominantly, but here you need to have knowledge on annotations. Now the annotations are kept both on the backend using CDS views, or they are also kept using RAF framework, or you can use CAPM framework, or you can use also the annotation XML file directly on the project. So this is again, this opens up into very vast area itself using annotations, how you want to code them. So I have all of this training with me. I have ABAP on HANA training with CDS view. I have RAP training with ABAP on cloud. I have CAPM training with BTP. I have Fiori Elements training, which is Fiori Advanced training of 60 hours. So it's your sky is the limit. I have everything with me. But first, your foundation needs to be made strong. If your foundation is not strong, you'll not be able to learn all the advanced stuff. I'm just sensitizing you since you asked this question. Of course, my goal is not to confuse you all here, but to tell you that where the technology is already headed, and if you are already still just working on core ABAP, trust me, it is a high risk you are running on your career. You're running on a very high risk on your career. If you're just still working only on core ABAP, you don't know about these things, or you're not willing to change yourself to learn these things, you are running on a very high risk on your career. In near future or in mid-term future, you will not get the desired growth in your career if you're not getting into these new stuff. So then that's about the skill part. When it comes to the cost, the total cost of ownership of an application, yeah, the TCO of an application, it is high when it comes to application because you need to build everything from scratch. Of course, you have a lot of tools, a lot of templates given by SAP to speed up your development, to auto generate and scaffold your project, but still the total cost of ownership is high. In this, the total cost of ownership is low. The investment is low to build Fiori Elements app because most of the application code is auto generated based on annotation by the framework in SAP Fiori. When it comes to maintenance of this app, you have to do a lot of maintenance. So this again require high maintenance, but here it requires low maintenance as the app is auto generated from the annotations. Yes. Then also the maintenance is your own responsibility. You have to maintain it here. It's not your responsibility. You have less responsibility to maintenance. More is on SAP because you are using SAP standardized framework to build application. Then comes this UI consistency. When it comes to consistency in the UI, freestyle Fiori apps have low UI consistency, but it has high UI consistency, which means if you build majority of your apps using Fiori elements, you get high consistency across. But trust me, my experience I'm sharing with you, whichever client I have worked, by far I've worked on almost 150 plus UI5 projects of all kinds, whether it is a fact sheet, freestyle, transactional, Fiori element, freestyle, non-Fiori element, analytical with HANA, native HANA, analytical with RAP, with CAPM, with annotation, with CDS, with ABAP on HANA. I've worked on 150 plus standard and non-standard apps. My personal experience with working with customers is today still about 60 to 70% development is done here with freestyle app development. Only 30% is currently being done with elements at the moment. But in future it may change because SAP is in the last decade also they are telling majority of the app they are going to build the standard app I'm talking about, they will be building using elements, Fiori elements. But still I would see that today as of now the situation is without this it is hard to survive in the market of Fiori. If you're willing to become a Fiori developer without knowing right fundamentals, web development, and the skills to build freestyle app, it is hard to survive just with Fiori elements. Fiori element is not going to help you. First of all, you'll not even understand half of the things because the basics are missing. Without learning alphabets, we can't jump to learn sentences and words. So this is alphabet. And it doesn't mean that this training is alphabet. This training is more about alphabet. It is about foundation. It's going to make a very strong foundation for all of you to become a master in Fiori development, and no matter which type of app you work in the future. So I hope it was a little clear for you to get the answer. Some of you, this question itself was not clear, but don't worry. Over a period of time, you will build the right maturity to also understand the questions also properly.